The space station called Havenport floated in the dark between stars. It was old and tired, built from metal plates that groaned when the temperature changed. Thousands of beings lived there. Traders came and went. Refugees hid in small rooms. Criminals walked freely because no government claimed the station as their own dot in one of the lower levels. Where the lights flickered and the air smelled of rust, there was a small shop. The sign above the door said, "Taiho's Repairs," in faded letters. Inside, shelves covered every wall. Broken toys sat on those shelves, waiting to be fixed. Dolls with missing arms. Music boxes that no longer played. Stuffed animals with torn fabric and lost eyes. Taiho was the man who fixed them. He was 53 years old, with gray hair cut short and a face full of deep lines. His hands were rough from years of work, covered in small scars from tools that had slipped. He wore simple clothes, always the same brown jacket and black pants. He spoke little and smiled less. Every night, Taiho worked at his bench until his eyes grew heavy. Then he would eat a small meal, lie down on his narrow bed, and sleep without dreams. His life was quiet. He wanted nothing more. But the universe does not care what we want. On that night, the station's temperature dropped lower than normal. The heating systems were old, and the lower levels always suffered most. Frost formed on the metal walls. The air turned sharp and painful to breathe. Taiho sat at his bench, working on a small wooden horse. The paint had chipped away, and one leg was broken. A child from the market level had brought it to him that morning, crying because it had belonged to her grandmother. Taiho had promised to fix it. He heard a sound at his door. It was soft, barely there. A scratching noise, like small nails against metal. Taiho stopped working and listened. The sound came again. Then silence. Then a faint whimper that made something in his chest feel tight. He stood up slowly. His knees ached from sitting too long. He walked to the door and pressed the button to open it. Cold air rushed in. And there, curled against the door frame, was a child. She was not human. Her body was small, covered in gray fur that should have been soft but now looked matted and dirty. 2 ears sat on top of her head, pressed flat against her skull. Her face was shaped like a cat's, with large golden eyes and a small pink nose. A thin tail wrapped around her body, the tip twitching with fear. She was Felician. Taiho had seen others of her kind on the station. They were refugees, most of them, running from a government that had turned cruel. The Dominion of Claws, it was called. They did not treat their own people kindly. This child could not have been more than 6 years old by human counting. She wore a thin shirt that was too big for her, hanging off one shoulder. No shoes, no coat. Her body shook so hard that Taiho could hear her teeth clicking together. She looked up at him with those golden eyes. There was no hope in them, only fear. Only the certainty that this stranger would hurt her, because strangers always hurt her. Taiho did not speak. He stepped back from the door. He moved to the side and gestured with his hand toward the inside of his shop. The child did not move. She stared at him, confused. Taiho waited. He did not reach for her. He did not make loud noises or sudden movements. He simply stood there, holding the door open, letting the warm air from his shop drift out into the cold corridor. Finally, the child moved. She crawled forward on hands and knees, too weak to stand. She crossed the threshold and collapsed on the floor of his shop, still shaking. Taiho closed the door. He walked past her to his bed and pulled the blanket from it. The blanket was old and worn, but it was warm. He had slept under it for 15 years. He brought it to the child and draped it over her. She flinched when the fabric touched her, then went still. Her eyes watched his every move. Taiho went to his small cooking area. He had a pot of broth left over from his dinner. It was not much, just water and vegetables and a little salt. But it was hot. He poured it into a bowl and brought it to the child. He set it on the floor in front of her, along with a spoon. Then he returned to his workbench and sat down. He picked up the wooden horse and continued his work. The child did not move for a long time. She watched him, waiting for the trick, waiting for the trap. Her people had taught her about humans. They were violent, they said, dangerous. They killed without reason and felt no guilt. But this human only worked on his broken toy. He hummed softly, a tune without words. He did not look at her. He did not demand anything. Slowly, the child reached for the bowl. Her paws wrapped around it, and she pulled it close. The warmth seeped into her cold fingers. She brought the bowl to her lips and drank. The broth was simple, but to her, it tasted like the finest meal she had ever eaten. She drank all of it, then set the bowl down and pulled the blanket tighter around herself. Taiho glanced at her once, then returned to his work. The child's name was Nuri. She did not tell him this. She did not speak at all, but she watched him through the night, waiting for him to show his true nature, waiting for the kindness to turn to cruelty. It never did. Taiho worked until the small wooden horse was fixed. He set it aside to let the glue dry. Then he stretched his arms and stood up from his bench. He looked at the child. She was still awake, still watching him with those golden eyes. Taiho walked to a shelf in the corner of his shop. He reached up and took down a small stuffed animal. It was a bird with blue feathers made of soft fabric. One wing had been torn and sewn back together. The stitches were not perfect, but they held. He brought it to the child and set it beside her. Then he lay down on the floor, using his jacket as a pillow. He had given her his blanket and his bed. He did not mind. He had slept in worse places. The child stared at the stuffed bird. Then she picked it up and held it against her chest. For the first time in many months, she closed her eyes without fear. Outside, the station groaned in the cold. But inside the small shop, two strangers shared what little warmth remained. And neither of them knew that this night would change everything. 7 days passed, and Nuri did not leave. Taiho never asked her to. He never asked where she came from. He never asked about her family or why she had been alone in the cold. He simply made space for her, as if she had always been there. On the second day, he cleared out a corner of the shop. There was an old cot stored behind some boxes, left behind by a previous owner. Taiho cleaned it with a wet cloth and placed it against the wall. He found an extra blanket in the market, traded for it with a music box he had repaired. He put the blanket on the cot and said nothing. Nuri watched all of this without speaking. When night came, she lay down on the cot instead of the floor. The cot was small, but it was soft. It was hers. On the third day, Taiho set out 2 bowls at mealtime instead of 1. The portions were smaller now, divided between them. But he did not complain. He ate his share slowly and waited for her to finish before cleaning up. Nuri still did not speak, but she began to move around the shop more freely. She looked at the broken toys on the shelves. She touched them gently with her small paws, turning them over to see what was wrong with them. Taiho noticed. He said nothing. On the 5th day, a customer came to the shop. She was a Vraxi female, tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. She carried a broken doll that belonged to her daughter. When she saw Nuri sitting in the corner, she stopped. Her eyes went wide. "You have a Felician child," she said to Taiho. He did not look up from his work. "Yes, where did she come from?" She was cold. The Vraxi stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked at Nuri, who had pressed herself against the wall, ears flat with fear. "The Felicians on this station say humans cannot be trusted," the Vraxi said quietly. "They say your kind is cruel." Taiho finally looked up. His face showed nothing. "Some of us are, and you?" He returned to his work. "I fix toys." The Vraxi left her broken doll and paid him 3 credits. Before she walked out, she looked at Nori one more time. There was something like confusion in her eyes, like she was seeing something she did not understand. After she left, Nori slowly relaxed. Her ears rose back up. Her tail uncurled from around her body. Taeho held out the broken doll. "Do you want to help?" Nori stared at him. No one had ever asked her to help with anything. She walked over slowly and took the doll. Its arm had come off, and the joint was cracked. She looked at it carefully, then looked at Taeho. He showed her how to apply the glue, how to hold the pieces together until they stuck, how to be gentle so the crack would not spread. They worked together in silence. When the doll was fixed, Taeho set it aside to dry. He looked at Nori and gave her a small nod. It was not a smile, but it was close. The other shopkeepers began to talk. News spread quickly in a place like Havenport. A human Toymaker had taken in a Felician child. Some said it was strange. Some said it was suspicious. A few said worse things that Taeho pretended not to hear. The Felician refugees watched him most carefully of all. They had come to this station to escape cruelty. They did not trust easily, and they certainly did not trust humans. One evening, an old Felician male came to the shop. His fur was white with age, and he walked with a cane. He stood in the doorway and looked at Nori for a long time. "Child," he said in their language, "are you safe here?" Nori looked at Taeho. He was at his workbench, carefully cleaning the gears of a music box. He did not understand their language, but he knew something important was happening. He stayed still and quiet. Nori turned back to the old male. "He gave me his blanket," she said. "He sleeps on the floor so I can have the bed. He feeds me before he feeds himself." The old male's eyes narrowed. "Why would a human do this?" "I do not know. Has he hurt you?" "No." "Has he touched you in ways that made you uncomfortable?" "No." The old male was silent for a moment. Then he spoke in the common tongue so Taeho could understand. "I am Grandfather Borum. I speak for the Felician refugees on this station. We will be watching." Taeho looked up. "That is your right. If you harm this child, we will kill you. If I harm this child, I will let you." Grandfather Borum stared at him. Something changed in his expression. The hardness did not leave, but something else appeared beside it. Something like respect. He turned and walked away without another word. That night, after Nuri had gone to sleep, Taeho sat at his bench and stared at his hands. They were rough and scarred. They had done terrible things once. Things he tried not to remember, but they could also be gentle. They could fix what was broken. They could offer warmth to those who had none. He looked at the sleeping child. Her face was peaceful. Her paws clutched the stuffed bird he had given her. Taeho made a decision then. He did not say it out loud. He did not write it down, but he made it in his heart, where promises were kept. He would protect her, no matter what came. 3 days later, Nori spoke her first word to him. Taeho was eating his breakfast when she walked over and stood beside him. She looked at the bowl of rice and vegetables. Then she looked at him. "More?" she asked. Her voice was small and rough from not being used, but the word was clear. Taeho felt something warm spread through his chest. He divided his portion and gave her half. "Always," he said. "And you are." I took the bowl and sat beside him. They ate together in comfortable silence. Outside, the station continued its slow rotation through the dark. Inside, something new was being built. Something fragile and precious. Neither of them had names for it yet, but both of them could feel it growing. And for the first time in many years, Taeho's shop did not feel so empty anymore. The ship arrived at Havenport on a morning like any other. It was small and fast, painted black, with no markings to show where it came from. 3 Felician males stepped off the ship and walked into the stationed with the confidence of predators entering a forest. They wore dark armor and carried weapons openly. Their eyes moved constantly, watching everything. The other beings in the docking area stepped aside to let them pass. No one wanted trouble. These were hunters from the Dominion of Claws. Everyone could see it. Everyone could feel it. Nuri felt it too, though she did not know they had come. She was in Taiho's shop, helping him sort through a box of old toy parts. In the weeks she had arrived, she had learned many things. She knew which tools were for cutting and which were for holding. She knew how to clean rust from metal gears. She knew that Taiho hummed when he was happy with his work, and went silent when something was difficult. She had also learned to trust him. Not completely, not yet, but enough to sleep through the night. Enough to eat without watching the door. Enough to laugh sometimes when he showed her. Our repaired toy worked. It was almost like having a home, but homes could be taken away. Nori knew this better than most. The hunters moved through the station, level by level. They asked questions at every shop and checkpoint. They showed a picture on a small screen, the image of a Philesian child with gray fur and golden eyes. "We are looking for this kid," the lead hunter said to each person. "She is a criminal wanted by the Dominion. Anyone who helps her is also a criminal." Most people shook their heads and looked away. They did not want to be involved. The Dominion was far away, but its reach was long, and its punishments were cruel. The Philesian refugees were questioned hardest of all. The hunters visited their living areas and spoke to them in their own language. They made threats. They made promises. They offered money for information. Grandfather Barm met with them in the common room of the refugee quarter. He listened to their demands with a face like stone. "We know nothing about this child," he said. The lead hunter smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Old one, we have tracked her across 3 systems. Her trail ends here. Someone is hiding her. Perhaps she is dead. Perhaps. But we must be certain." The hunter leaned closer. The Dominion does not forget its enemies. This child's parents were traitors who spread lies about our great nation. They were executed as they deserved. But the child escaped. "We will not rest until she is found." Grandfather Borum said nothing. The hunter continued. "If we discover that any Philesian on this station has helped her, we will make sure the Dominion knows. Your families back home will suffer. Your friends. Everyone you left behind." Still, Grandfather Borum said nothing. The hunter stood up and walked to the door. "We will find her. It is only a matter of time." After they left, Grandfather Borum sat alone for a long while. Then he got up and walked to Taiho's shop. He found the human at his workbench, as always. Nuri was beside him, carefully painting a small wooden figure. She looked up when the old Philesian entered, and her ears went flat against her head. She recognized the fear in Grandfather Barum's eyes. "They are here," he said simply. Taiho stopped working. "Who? Hunters?" "From the Dominion." He looked at Nuri. "They are searching for her." The color drained from Nuri's face. Her whole body began to shake. The paintbrush fell from her paws and clattered on the floor. Taiho looked at her, then back at Grandfather Barum. "Why?" The old Philesian sighed. "Because of who her parents were. They led a movement against the Dominion. They spoke out against the cruelty and the killings. They gave hope to those who had none." His voice grew heavy. "The Dominion killed them for it, but they could not find the child. She was smuggled off-world before they came." Taiho turned to Nuri. She was crying now, silent tears running down her furred cheeks. He understood then why she had been alone in the cold, why she trusted no one, why she flinched at sudden movements and watched every door. She had seen her parents die. She had been running ever since. What did they want with her? Taiho asked, though he already knew the answer. "They want to make an example. to show that no one escapes the Dominion's justice. Grandfather Borum shook his head slowly. She's only a child, but to them, she is a symbol. They will not stop until they have her. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up from his bench and walked to Nuri. He knelt down in front of her, so their eyes were level. "Look at me," he said softly. Nuri looked. Her golden eyes were full of terror. "I will not let them take you," Taiho said. "Do you understand? Whatever happens, I will not let them take you." Nuri shook her head. "You cannot stop them. They are hunters. They kill people like you. People have tried to kill me before." She stared at him. There was something in his voice she had not heard before. Something hard and cold and very, very dangerous. "Who are you?" She whispered. Taiho did not answer. He stood up and looked at Grandfather Borum. "I need to know when they are coming. Can your people watch them?" The old Philesian nodded slowly. "We can. But why would you do this? She is not your kind. She is nothing to you." Taiho looked down at Nuri. She was still shaking, still crying, still clutching the stuffed bird he had given her on that first cold night. "She's everything to me," he said quietly. "She just does not know it yet." Grandfather Borum studied him for a long moment. Then he turned and walked to the door. Before he left, he spoke over his shoulder. "The Philesian people do not forget those who help us. Whatever happens, Toymaker, we will remember what you have done." Then he was gone. Taiho locked the door behind him. He walked to a cabinet in the corner of his shop, one that Nuri had never seen him open. He pushed aside boxes of spare parts and reached into the back. When he turned around, he was holding a weapon. It was old and worn, but well-maintained. The kind of weapon that had seen much use. Nuri stared at it with wide eyes. Taiho met her gaze. "There are things about me you do not know," he said. "Things I hoped you would never have to learn. But if those hunters come through that door, they will learn something too." He sat down beside her and put the weapon on the floor between them. "They will learn. What happens when they threaten my family?" Nuri looked at him. Family. He had called her family. She did not know what to say. So she said nothing. She simply moved closer to him and pressed her small body against his side. Taiho put his arm around her and held her tight. Outside, the hunters continued their search. They were getting closer, but inside the small shop, a Toymaker prepared for war. Taiho had been a soldier once. He did not like to remember those days. The memories came to him sometimes in dreams, and he would wake up with his heart pounding and his hands shaking. He had done things in the war that he could never undo. He had taken lives. He had followed orders that should never have been given. He had watched good people die for reasons that made no sense. When the war ended, he walked away from everything. He sold his medals. He burned his uniform. He traveled to the farthest edge of human space and found a place where no one knew his name. He became a Toymaker because toys made children smile. Because fixing broken things felt like making amends. Because every doll he repaired was a small act of kindness in a universe that had shown him so much cruelty. For 15 years, he lived in peace. He thought the soldier was dead. He thought he had buried that man forever. But some things cannot stay buried. The hunters came to his shop on the third night after their arrival. It was late, well past midnight. The corridor outside was empty and dark. Taiho heard them coming. 3 sets of footsteps, moving with the careful rhythm of trained killers. He had walked like that once. He knew the sound. Nuri was hidden beneath the floor. Taiho had prepared the space days ago, cutting through the metal plating to create a small compartment. It was cramped and dark, but it was safe. He had made her practice getting in and out quickly, until she could do it in seconds. Now she waited there, silent and still. clutching her stuffed bird against her chest. Taiho sat at his workbench. His weapon was hidden beneath the table, within easy reach. His tools were laid out in front of him, as if he had been working. The door opened with a sharp crack. The hunters had broken the lock. They walked in like they owned the place. The lead hunter was the tallest, with black fur marked by old scars. The other two flanked him, their weapons drawn and ready. "Toymaker," the lead hunter said. "We meet at last." Taiho did not look up from his work. "I am closed. We are not here to buy toys." The hunter walked closer, his boots heavy on the metal floor. "We are here for the child. We know you have her." "I do not know what you are talking about." The hunter moved fast. He grabbed Taiho by the collar and slammed him against the wall. The impact knocked the air from Taiho's lungs, but he did not cry out. He had felt worse. "Do not play games with me, human," the hunter growled. His breath was hot and smelled of meat. "Your kind dies easily. I have killed many of you. It is no trouble to kill one more." Taiho met his eyes. He did not blink. He did not look away. "So does yours," he said quietly. The hunter hesitated. There was something in the human's gaze that he did not expect. No fear, no desperation. Only a cold, steady calm that spoke of violence waiting to be released. The hunter released him and stepped back. "Search the shop," he ordered the others. They moved quickly, tearing through shelves and overturning boxes. Toys fell to the floor and shattered. Years of Taiho's work destroyed in moments. He watched without expression. They did not find the hidden compartment. Taiho had built it well. The lead hunter turned back to him. "Where is she?" "I told you." "I do not know. You are lying. Prove it." The hunter snarled and raised his weapon. "I will tear this place apart. I will tear you apart. One piece at a time, until you tell me what I want to know." Taiho looked at him for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was different now. Lower, harder. The voice of the man he used to be. "You have 3 seconds to leave." The hunter laughed. "Or what? You are one old human against 3 trained warriors. What will you do?" 1. The hunter raised his weapon higher. "Enough of this. Kill him." 2. The other hunters moved forward. 3. What happened next was very fast. Taiho dropped to the floor and rolled. His hand found the weapon beneath the table. He came up firing. The first shot took the hunter on the left in the chest. He fell without a sound. The second hunter tried to aim, but Taiho was already moving. He crossed the distance between them in 2 steps and struck with the edge of his hand. The hunter's weapon flew from his grip. A second strike sent him crashing into the wall. The lead hunter fired, but Taiho was not there anymore. He had moved again, circling behind, using the shelves for cover. The hunter spun, trying to track him. "What are you?" "You are just a Toymaker." Taiho appeared behind him. He grabbed the hunter's weapon arm and twisted. The bone snapped with a wet crack. The hunter screamed and dropped his weapon. Taiho kicked his legs out from under him and pressed a plasma cutter against his throat. The same tool he used to fix toys. The same tool that could cut through metal and flesh alike. "I was a soldier," Taiho said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "I fought in the border wars. I killed more enemies than I can count. I did things that haunt me every night." The hunter stared up at him, eyes wide with pain and fear. "I gave that up," Taiho continued. "I came here to forget. To be someone else. Someone better." He pressed the cutter closer. The hunter whimpered. "But you came into my home. You threatened my child. You brought the war back to me." "She is not your child," the hunter gasped. "She is Felician. She is nothing to you." Taiho leaned down until his face was inches from the hunter's. "She is everything to me, and you will never touch her." He stood up and stepped back. The hunter lay on the floor, broken and bleeding. "Go back to your dominion," Taiho said. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them there is a human on Havenport who protects Felician children. Tell them that if they send more hunters, I will send them back in pieces." The lead hunter crawled toward his fallen comrades. One was dead. The other was unconscious. "You cannot fight the entire dominion," he spat. Taiho smiled. It was not a kind smile. "I do not need to fight all of them. I just need to make it too expensive to keep trying. Humans are very good at that. We are stubborn. We do not give up. And we protect our own. She is not your own." Taiho looked at the hidden compartment where Nuri waited. He thought about the small gray child with golden eyes who had appeared at his door on a cold night, who had trembled with fear and hunger, who had slowly learned to trust him, to laugh with him, to call his shop home. "Yes," he said quietly. "She is." The hunters left that night. They carried their dead and their wounded back to their ship and fled the station. After they were gone, Taiho opened the floor compartment. Nuri climbed out, shaking badly. She looked around at the destroyed shop, at the blood on the floor, at the weapon still in Taiho's hand. Then she looked at him. "Are they gone?" She whispered. Taiho nodded. He put down the weapon and knelt in front of her. "They are gone. Will they come back? Maybe, but I will be here. I will always be here." Nuri threw her arms around his neck and held on tight. She was crying again, but this time the tears were different. This time they were tears of relief. Taiho held her close. His hands, which had killed so many, were gentle now, soft, the hands of a toymaker. "I have you," he murmured. "I have you." Outside, the station continued its slow rotation through the dark. But inside the broken shop, surrounded by shattered toys and scattered memories, two souls held on to each other and refused to let go. The Toymaker's war was over, but his fight to protect his family had just begun. 8 months passed. The shop was rebuilt. Taiho worked for many long days and nights to repair the shelves and replace the broken toys. Nuri helped him. She had grown taller in those months, her fur sleeker and her eyes brighter. She no longer flinched at sudden sounds. She no longer watched the door with fear. She was still quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet now. The quiet of someone who felt safe. The Felician refugees had helped with the repairs. They came one by one, bringing tools and materials and food. They did not say much. They did not need to. Their presence was enough. Grandfather Borum came most often. He would sit in the corner and watch Taiho work, saying little but seeing everything. Sometimes he and Nuri would speak in their own language. Taiho did not understand the words, but he understood the tone. It was the tone of a grandfather talking to his grandchild. The hunters never returned. Word had spread through the systems about what happened on Havenport. A human Toymaker had defeated 3 Dominion warriors. He had sent them running. He had made them afraid. The Dominion did not like to look weak, but they also did not like to lose. So they waited. They watched. They planned, but they never came back. Then, one morning, everything changed again. A ship arrived at Havenport. It was different from the hunter's vessel. This one was painted white, with symbols that Taiho did not recognize. Felician symbols, Nuri told him. The symbols of the old government. The good government, before the Dominion took power. 3 Felicians stepped off the ship. 2 were guards, tall and strong, wearing armor that gleamed in the station lights. The 3rd was older, a female with silver fur and kind eyes. She walked with the dignity of someone who had seen much and survived it all. They came to Taiho's shop. Nuri was at the workbench when they entered. She looked up and froze. Her eyes went wide. Her paws began to tremble. "Elder Yuna," she whispered, The silver-furred female smiled gently. "Hello, little one. Do you remember me?" Nuri nodded slowly. "You were my mother's friend." "I was. And I have been searching for you for a very long time." Taiho stood up from his bench. He moved to stand beside Nuri, one hand resting lightly on her shoulder. He did not know who these people were, but he knew that this moment was important. Elder Yuna looked at him. Her eyes took in everything. The rough hands, the quiet strength, the way he stood beside the child, protective and calm. "You are the Toymaker," she said. "The one who fought the hunters." "I am. We have heard the stories. All of Felicia has heard them." She smiled again. A human who gave everything to protect the child who was not his own. Who stood against the Dominion when no one else would. "I did what was right." "Yes, you did." She turned back to Nuri. "Little one, I bring news. The Dominion has fallen. There were rebellions across our world. The people rose up, inspired by stories of those who resisted. Stories of your parents. Stories of you." Nuri stared at her. "Fallen?" "Yes. The old ways are returning. A new council has been formed, built on the values your parents died for. Freedom, kindness, justice." Elder Yuna knelt down so she was at Nuri's level. "You can come home now, little one. You can take your place among our people. Your parents will be honored as heroes. You will be honored as their daughter." Nuri looked at her for a long moment. Then she looked at Taiho. The Toymaker's face showed nothing, but his hand on her shoulder had gone tight. His jaw was clenched. His eyes were fixed on the far wall, seeing something that was not there. He was preparing himself, preparing to let her go. "I can go home," Nuri said slowly. "Yes, I can be with my people. Yes, I can be someone important. You already are someone important, little one. But yes, you can take your place in our new world." Nuri was quiet for a long time. The shop was silent. Even the station seemed to hold its breath. Then Nuri turned to Elder Yuna and spoke. "Can you wait?" The elder blinked. "Wait?" "Yes, I want to finish something first." Nuri walked to the workbench and picked up a small music box. It was half repaired, its gears exposed, its song unfinished. Taiho was teaching me how to fix it. I want to finish it before I go anywhere. Elder Yuna looked at Taiho. He had not moved. His hand was no longer on Nuri's shoulder. He was very still, like a man waiting for a blow to fall. "Of course," the elder said softly. "Take all the time you need." Nuri climbed onto her stool and began to work. Her small paws moved carefully over the tiny gears. She did not look at anyone. She did not speak. Taiho watched her. His eyes were wet, but no tears fell. He walked slowly back to his bench and sat down. He picked up a tool, but did not use it. He just held it in his hands and stared at nothing. The minutes passed. The music box came together piece by piece. Nuri worked with the patience and care that Taiho had taught her. Finally, she set down her tools and wound the key. The music box began to play. A soft, sweet melody filled the shop. It was not a Felician song. It was not a human song. It was something new. Something that belonged to both worlds. Nuri listened to it until the song ended. Then she turned to Elder Yuna. "I have decided," she said. "Yes?" "I am not going with you." Taiho's head came up. He stared at her. Elder Yuna did not look surprised. She only smiled. "May I ask why?" Nuri turned to look at Taiho, the Toymaker who had given her his blanket on a cold night, who had fed her when he was hungry, who had taught her to fix broken things and had fought to keep her safe. "Because home is not always where we are born," she said. "Sometimes home is where we are loved." She walked to Taiho and climbed into his lap. He held her carefully, like she might break. "I want to stay here," she said. With my family. Taiho's arms tightened around her. A single tear rolled down his weathered cheek. Are you sure? He whispered, double quotes, yes. It will not be easy. I am old. I am poor. I have nothing to offer you. Nuri looked up at him with those golden eyes. You have everything I need. Elder Yuna stood up. She walked to them and placed her hand on Nuri's head. Then, this is where you will stay, she said. But know this, little one. You will always have a place among the Philesian people. And you, she looked at Taiho, will always be honored by us. What you have done will never be forgotten. She turned and walked to the door. Before she left, she spoke one last time. Perhaps humanity and Felicia are not so different after all. Perhaps we are all just looking for the same thing. What is that? Taiho asked. Elder Yuna smiled. Someone who sees us. Someone who stays. Someone who offers warmth when the world grows cold. Then she was gone. The shop was quiet again. Outside, the station hummed with life. Ships came and went. Beings of all kinds walked the corridors, each carrying their own stories. But inside the small shop, a human and a Philesian child sat together in the silence. They did not need words. They did not need promises. They had found what they were looking for. Taiho picked up the music box and wound the key again. The melody filled the shop, soft and sweet. Nuri closed her eyes and leaned against him. I love you, she said quietly. Taiho held her close. I love you too. The music played on and outside the window. The stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the small moments that meant everything. But in the small shop at the edge of the galaxy, none of that mattered. A trembling child had waited by a Toymaker's door, and he had offered her the only warmth. He had. It was enough. It was everything.